Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. How are you today? I hope you are having a wonderful week. We're halfway through. And yeah, I'm glad you could join me today. So, last week we started a series about body types. Last week we talked a lot about loving your body and the whole my ideas about dressing for your body shape and loving the body that you have right now. Right now. The body you have right now deserves all the love that your idealized version of yourself would get. Because if you can't love yourself right now, I promise you'll never, never love yourself, no matter how perfect you think your body is. And we started a new challenge called the I Love My Body Challenge in the Capsule Warders for Classic Style Facebook group. And I have just really enjoyed all the positivity and the things that you have shared that you love about your body. I've shared my own each day, and some of them are things that I've always loved about myself, and others are things that I have struggled to love about myself. And it's giving me a new mindset and perspective on my body, because my body does so much for me every day, and it has my whole life. And so has yours. Your body is a miracle, and it's perfect just the way it is. And so I wanted to set this whole thing up that way last week, because it's really important. We get a lot of negativity from everywhere, and a lot of false messages about what is ideal or desirable. And we also talked last week about how that has changed through just even the last few decades. Much less across the centuries. And I hope, I hope more of you will jump in and participate in the challenge. It has really had a positive effect on me, and I think it's having a positive effect on a lot of you as well. So today I wanted to identify the 5 basic body types that we have been given. And most of them are fruit, right? The most commonly known ones are fruit: apples, pears, carrots, straight, I would call celery. I mean, if we're all going to be fruit, straight your celery. And hourglass, are you a peanut? Like, you can go with shapes: oval, triangle, inverted triangle, rectangle, and figure 8. You can do numbers: 0, 6, 7, 1, and 8. Or you could do letters: O, A, Y, H, and X. Or we could just all be glasses instead, right? Let's just make it equal and even. Wine glass, carafe, pilsner, water glass, and hourglass. I mean, so wine glass is an apple, a carafe is a pear, a pilsner is a carrot, a water glass is a straight, and obviously the hourglass, right? I had a lot of fun coming up with these different names to refer to our body types. And whether you call them by fruits, shapes, numbers, letters, or glassware, the female form comes in these 5 basic shapes. And some of you really chafe at being referred to as a fruit, and I get it, I do, but it's really easy to visualize with descriptions like this. So each shape has its best assets and challenges when it comes to choosing clothes that play up the best features and create a visual balance that's pleasing to the eye in all forms of design. We talked about that last week too. All forms of design have these elements that are aesthetically pleasing, universally pleasing. Our bodies, our eyes look for balance in design, interior design, photography, landscape, and clothing. It's all a universal thing. Our eyes seek balance. And different styles of clothes suit different types of bodies. And before you can learn the tips to maximize what you've got, it's important to figure out your shape. And I know I keep saying, and we talked about this last week, but in case anybody missed it, I just feel it's so important to, bring back these key points from last week. And we talked about boats. If you had a boat and you bought a boat cover for a totally different shaped and sized boat and tried to make it fit on the boat you have, would you curse that boat and call it ugly, or you're the worst boat ever, I hate you? Or would you just buy a boat cover that fits your boat, right? Your body is the same. Not all clothing fits all body types, just like all boat covers do not fit all boats. They just don't. And trying to, and berating yourself won't change that. It's like trying to put on the wrong size of shoe. You can hate your foot all you want. It's not going to change sizes and fit into that shoe. Just love your body. Love it for exactly what it is and all that it does for you. It's perfect. It's beautiful. And if you realize that you're just trying to find the right style of clothes for your shape, it's not about shaming yourself or trying to be something that you're not and feeling bad that you're not. So let's answer a few basic questions before we talk about the different body types. Do height and weight matter? Height does not play a role when you're determining your body shape. A woman who is 5 feet tall and a woman who is 5'9" can both be pear-shaped. You can be any height and any body type. Both tall and petite women can be any body type, because what we're looking at is proportion. And likewise, weight is not necessarily a defining factor. A very slender woman can be a pear shape just as much as a plus size woman. Although I will say this, the proportions can be less obvious and harder to see when a woman is slimmer, and it becomes more obvious if she gains weight. But it still comes down to proportion. So that can be tricky, but you are what you are. So what about, I know some of you are saying, well, no, there are more than 5 body types. That's true. There are lots of different body type programs and systems out there, and some of them include more than 5 body types. And those are very specific. You can get very specific about anything you want to get specific about. I mean, you can say, I need an onion for this recipe. Or you can say, I need shallots, diced shallots. You can get very specific about anything. For the sake of simplicity, we're going to stick with the 5 general categories. And some of you don't like being referred to as fruit. We talked about that, but it's a very simple visual that helps you get the idea of the proportions we're talking about, and it's not meant to be derogatory. Fruit is delicious. Until we had mass-produced sugar products, fruit was dessert. It was what we looked forward to. It was a rare treat. You could only get it when it was in season. it was very desirable, and fruit is beautiful. They come in all different colors and shapes and textures, and they're very diverse while all being delicious. So if you don't like being fruit, feel free to use your own term or whatever feels good. But for simplicity, I'm just going to use these 5 well-known fruit terms, because otherwise we'll all have to do some serious mental gymnastics. So which is the best body type? Well, there isn't one. And we talked about that last week. Each body type is beautiful and has its beautiful special features as well as dressing challenge. While we tend to idealize an hourglass shape because it naturally has the balance that our eyes are seeking from those elements of design, it's by no means an easy shape to dress either. And like we talked about last week, what has been idealized by society has changed over and over and over again. What was, all the rage in the 50s, suddenly the opposite was true in the 60s. Are they all the same? Are all pears exactly the same? Are all straights exactly the same? No, they're not. Like we said, there's a lot of, we're all unique, and there's a lot of variety in our body types. These 5 body types are generalities, and there's always variety because each one of us is so unique. So just because I list general features that are typical to a body type doesn't mean all women in that category will meet all of those criteria. There are some basic ones that you will, but then there's some others that are tendencies, and that's where you can get some of that specializing in your body typing systems that really, really break it down even more. So just as an example, pear-shaped women, and I'm a pear, I mention that all the time, tend to have smaller busts, very narrow shoulders and upper bodies, and then they're fuller through the hips, seat, and thighs. But you can be a busty pear, like a really busty pear. Oprah is a very busty pear. And you might think she's an hourglass because she's so busty. But if you look at the proportions from her shoulders to her hips, they are wider. She is wider down below. And so, that's what I mean. Like, you can have variety like that, and that can make it a little tricky sometimes. Can my body type change? Well, our bodies change all the time. Your body can change with age, pregnancy, and other factors. And women's waists tend to thicken with age, or we might develop a full midsection or wider ribs after giving birth. My friend's proportions changed after she had a hysterectomy. It changed the proportions of her torso. As we gain weight, we can also take on attributes of other body types. A pear can put on weight around her abdomen that maybe wasn't there a few sizes ago. And that's not a super typical trait of a pear, but that happens. So your body can change. And I think in general, you're born with a specific body type, but things change. Our bodies change. Do I only have one body type? We are all so unique. I hope you hear me when I say that. And so are our bodies. I know I keep repeating that, but I think it's really important for you to understand. I'm not trying to box you in. These are general ideas that you can adapt for yourself. And it's impossible to put all of the women of this world into 5 boxes. You have a predominant body type, but you can also have some attributes of another body type. And you might be a pear with a straighter waist, maybe not as narrow and defined. So I don't have a super defined waistline, because I'm super short-waisted, there is less than an inch between my hip bone and my ribs, where my best, one of my best friends has 8 inches between her hip bone and her ribs. So she can taper. There's room for that waistline to taper. And basically I go straight from rib to hip. So I'm never going to have that super defined waistline because there's no room to do it. And so I have a straighter waist than other pairs, but that doesn't make me a straight. That's an attribute that you might apply, that you do apply to a straight figure, right? But it's also one of mine. So I hope, well, and another example is a very slender apple can look more like a straight from the ribs down. But then they can also be busty, like an hourglass up top. And did I open that picture? The original Daisy Duke, Catherine Bach, she's an apple, but in her Daisy Duke days, you might have said she was an hourglass because she was so curvy in certain spots. But in later years, you could definitely see that she was an apple. So anyway, I hope you know that there's a lot to it, and at the same time, it can be really simple. You can overthink it, and you can get really specific if that's helpful to you. So, but today we're just going to talk about the 5 basic body shapes. That was kind of a long wind-up, but I feel like it's important because this can be a little bit of a touchy topic for us, I think, because we've been conditioned that way, and I'm hoping to uncondition all of us. So let's talk about the 5 body types. Let's start with pear. Pear-shaped bodies, some would say, are the most common female body type, and they're characterized by wider measurements on the lower half of their body, particularly in the hip, seat, and thighs. And women who fit this description often use the term curvy on the bottom to describe their body shape. And they have a proportionally narrow shoulders, waist, and torso. So notice I said proportionally. So at any size, those proportions might become more pronounced, but they are still there. I have very narrow torso. I have narrow shoulders, and that doesn't go away. But at times when I have weighed more, it's much more pronounced that my lower body is wider, if that makes sense. And but proportionally, no matter what, I am wider through the seat and curvy. I'm very curvy through that part of my body, and I always will be. I will never have straight legs like a straight body type, ever. Doesn't matter. That will never change. So let's talk about the key features of a body shape. You have a great tush. It's curvy and it's shapely. Your waist looks narrow and shapely because you're fuller through your hips. So my straight waist doesn't look as straight because it's sitting right on top of my hips. So I go like this, and then I go like that, instead of going like this and like that, where a pair with a longer torso would be able to do that. And so the shape of my hips makes my waist look more defined than it actually is. And this is particularly So your hips will measure wider than your shoulders. And this can be a subtle difference, or it can be more dramatic. And if you are on the slender side, you may have to actually get out a measuring tape to check. you tend to gain weight in your lower half. In your curviest parts, that is where the weight gain comes on. And so I have a friend who would say, she's a pear, and she would say, oh, the last place I gain weight is my chest, and that's also the first place I lose it. And the first place I gain weight is in my bottom, and that's also the last place I lose it. And so if that sounds familiar to you, you're probably a pear. But ultimately, your key characteristic is proportionally, you're wider on bottom and narrow on top. And you typically wear a larger size on your bottom half and a smaller size up top. Some famous pear shapes would include Jennifer Lopez and Beyonce. I think you could ask anybody on the planet to say, who are the two most famous pear shapes in the world? And I think that's the answer you'll get. And I think that, one thing that I really appreciate about both of them is that they have made embracing your body very acceptable, I guess. They did not try to hide their body types. Michelle Obama is another one. Here's Beyonce. Here's Jennifer Lopez. They embraced their curves and their proportions. And I really like that body positive message that puts out. They're not ashamed of their curves. Why should they be? And they're not, So, and when they, when they were really growing in popularity was when the more like the Kate Moss 90s look was still, hanging on, and a lot of celebrities were hiding their curves and anyway, so I really appreciate about them. Other classic pairs are Michelle Obama, Kate Winslet, Claire Danes, Keira Knightley, Oprah, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Linda Carter of Wonder Woman fame, and Jennifer Aniston. She's a very slender pear that you may not realize, but she is a pear. So now let's talk about the apple shape. Unlike some body types, an apple shape can be harder to detect on a very slender woman. Apple-shaped bodies are characterized by a fuller midsection and slender limbs. Apples are known for their gorgeous, shapely legs. If you meet a woman who has just gotten, show-stopping legs, she may be an apple, very likely. They have very defined calves and slender, delicate ankles. They also have slender arms. So their limbs are very slender but shapely, and they tend to have a flatter bottom. A slender apple will have a straight or undefined waistline, and as they gain weight, it shows up in their midsection. And they have a wider shoulder line and rib cage, but their torso narrows as they go down to their hips. And their backside is pretty flat and straight all the way down, including a flatter bottom. So what differentiates an apple from a straight body type is an apple has more curves and shape in their legs and in their bust typically, and their shoulders are wider than their hips. And when they gain weight, it shows up in their midsection. And an apple will typically wear a larger size up top and a smaller size on bottom. So the reverse of a pear. Some famous apple shapes are Drew Barrymore and Reese Witherspoon. And she's another one of those. So if you ever saw Legally Blonde, such a good movie. Reese Witherspoon is a bombshell, right, in that movie. She's got a lot of curves in her chest, and her legs are just to die for. But if you've seen her in later years, she's a human being like all of us, and gains weight in her midsection. So here's Catherine Bach, the original Daisy Duke. And you can see, let me get where you can see my cursor. You can see her shoulder line, and we're not seeing her straight on, but her shoulder line is wider than her hips. She has fabulous legs. I mean, they showcased that constantly in the show. I mean, it was totally sexist, and we're not even going to get into that. So, she gorgeous gams. I mean, you just can't even. But you can see that as far as an hourglass goes, she does not have the fullness in her hips here and in her legs. This whole part is missing. And she also has a flatter bottom. I don't have right with me a silhouette, a side angle from her, but she does not have that really rounded full bottom that an hourglass has. But I think a lot of people just off the cuff will look at this picture and go, "Ooh, she's an hourglass. She's so curvy." She is curvy. She's gorgeous. But it can be harder to tell sometimes. And I just wanted to show you that. So Rebel Wilson, who we have here on the left, is a famous apple shape. Drew Barrymore, Meg Ryan, Jessica Simpson, and Melissa McCarthy. There's some debate out there about whether Angelina Jolie is, some people call her a triangle, and others, I don't know. I kind of think I think she might be an apple because she's so curvy up top. And triangles typically are not as busty as Angelina Jolie, and she's got gorgeous legs. So you'll find both out there on the internet, but my personal opinion is I think she's an apple. So let's talk about straights. Straight body types are very proportional, and they're exactly what they sound like. You make a straight, flat line from pretty much every angle. You have a pretty flat tummy, and you tend to gain weight evenly throughout your body, which is really handy. Your weight gain is very proportional, and that often makes you look much slimmer. It's a visual illusion. Your bust and your hips are very close in measurements, and your ribs, weight, and waist measurements are also very close. Supermodels, or just models, well, it depends on what they're modeling, but tend to be straight bodies because they're easier to dress in one size. And they don't have to accommodate for extra curves here and there that make fitting a garment more challenging. They can put them all in the same clothes. So the key features of a straight body type has slender hips. Your body is very proportional and makes straight lines. You tend to have a flat tummy and a flatter backside. When you gain weight, it's evenly distributed across your body. Your bust and your hip measurements are about the same, and your waistline isn't very defined. You tend to have a naturally athletic look. And so I kind of think of it as a surfer. If you ever saw that, what was that movie with Kate Bosworth? You have a naturally athletic, toned look to you. And you typically wear the same size on the top and the bottom. Some famous straight shapes. Let's take a look at some of these beautiful women. Include Kate Middleton, Audrey Hepburn. I think Audrey Hepburn's probably maybe the most famous straight. Cameron Diaz, Kate Hudson, Queen Latifah. So if you look at Queen Latifah here in the middle, her weight gain is very proportional. And the dress that she is wearing is making her look curvier than she actually is. And Natalie Portman and Gwyneth Paltrow are other famous straight body types. So let's talk about a carrot body type. Your body is naturally muscular and defined. Again, you have a very athletic look to you. And other women may ask you how you get such shapely and defined arms and abs and give you the eye when you say you don't even work out. And they're like, why are you such a liar? Nobody has arms like that without working out. Oh yeah, you do. I have a dear, dear friend of mine. We've been friends since college. And she has struggled with serious health problems for over a decade. She can't work out. And she has Michelle Obama arms. I mean, her arms are cut. She looks like she is, they're not bulky, they're slender, but they're very defined in the musculature. And it looks like she works out every day. And her tummy is very defined as well. And she doesn't work out. And I've seen, even in college and when I'm like, oh my gosh, your arms are gorgeous. What kind of workout do you do? Or and she's like, I don't work out. And they're like, fine, if you don't want to tell me. But she really doesn't. And they really don't. So your shoulders are the widest part of your body. And you have slim, well-defined legs and arms that get compliments. I would say that if you're a carrot, and this is my personal opinion, that your calves are not as, they're straighter and slender and defined, where an apple, their calves are more shapely out this way. Does that make sense? I wish I had a picture to show you of that. But that's my own personal observation. And like I said, you could be a carrot with super curvy calves, but that's typically more of an apple feature. When you gain weight, it tends to show up evenly in your belly and upper body. So here's where, apple and pear, especially when you're slender, can be confusing. So those are some of the calves. You both have narrow hips. You both have a torso that goes like this, but apples tend to be curvier up top. You can be a less busty apple, but and carrot, you can be I guess you could be a busty carrot, but it's kind of the combination of characteristics. You're both wider in the shoulders and go like this, but apples tend to be bustier. Their calves are more defined. And when an apple gains weight, it's much more prominent in their midsection, where a carrot will gain weight more evenly through the whole torso, if that makes sense. So you typically wear a larger size up top and a smaller size on bottom. And I would say maybe if you're a carrot, it can be more dramatically different than an apple. So that friend of mine I was telling you about, she's very thin. On bottom, she wears like a size 2 or a 0, extra, or extra small or extra small. And up top, she wears a medium or a large to accommodate for her shoulders. The difference is that dramatic. It doesn't always have to be that dramatic, but on her it is. And often the carrot is much, like the proportions are, the V is wider than an apple. Some famous carrot body types. Let's open that one. Demi Moore. I think she's one of those who very much, and I don't have her in my collage here, but she's one of those who's really muscular and toned and defined. And I don't mean that in a negative way. She's beautiful. She's got a gorgeous body, right? But I don't think she has. I could work out, like I could kill myself working out, and still probably not have as defined muscles as she does anywhere on my body. Like it's just easy. It's just natural. It's part of her body type. And I would guess she doesn't have to work out that much to get that. She may not work out at all. I don't know. Demi and I don't hang out. She hasn't given me her fitness tips, but Lucy Liu, Cindy Crawford, Jennifer Garner, Charlize Theron, Twiggy, the model that we talked about from the 60s, Terry Hatcher, and Serena Williams. So let's move on and talk about the hourglass body shape. So an hourglass is, I think of it as if you took the top of a pear, from here up of a pear, and from here down on an apple and glued them together, you'd have an hourglass. It's proportionally the same top and bottom. And the hip and the shoulder measurements are about the same. Like a pear, you're curvy through the hips, the seat, and the thighs, and you have a defined waist. But unlike a pear, what really differentiates us is your shoulders are proportionally the same as your hips, and you're bustier usually than a pear. So the key features are your hips and shoulders are proportionally equal. You are curvy everywhere. You're curvy here and in the waist and in the seat and in the thighs. You tend to be bustier, but there's always a range on that. And your curves include a defined waist. When you gain weight, it tends to be proportional through your body. And you typically wear the same size on the top and the bottom. So maybe the world's most famous hourglass figure of all time is Marilyn Monroe, right? We all know who she is. Other notable hourglass shapes include Halle Berry, Scarlett Johansson, Christina Hendricks, we have here on the right, Sofia Vergara, Megan Fox, and Priyanka Chopra. I think I haven't seen anyone say that about her. I looked and I can't find a picture of her dead on. But she's either a very busty pear or she's an hourglass, but I think she might be an hourglass. So what I want to know is, did any of these surprise you? Part of that can be because each of these celebrities has a personal stylist who chooses outfits that create an optical illusion that makes them look very balanced. They feature their best assets and they draw the eye where you want it to go, like directing you with a spotlight, just like in theater. Or you can think of yourself as the cat and they are holding the red light pin. Have you ever watched one of those videos where someone's got a red light pin and they're moving it all around and there's a cat jumping all over the place after it? That's us. And they've got the red light and they're directing our eyes of where to look. I was really surprised that Natalie Portman was a straight. And then as I looked at all of her outfits, I could see how they have tricked us into seeing a balanced silhouette where she's actually quite straight. There were Anne Hathaway is a straight. That shocked me. I've seen The Devil Wears Prada only 5 million times, and I thought she was probably an hourglass, right? She's straight. And so there were a lot of surprises for me in this list, and I just thought that was super interesting. And I have, I keep track of the requests that I get from you. I keep a list of things that you ask for my help with, and that's how the Stunning Style Classic Wardrobes guides came to be. You wanted help shopping, you wanted help putting together your wardrobe, you wanted help putting together outfits, and that's how that happened, because I can't do it for everyone one-on-one, but I could do it that way. And then I created the Perfectly Put Together course because you were asking for help with that directly and indirectly. I just want to look put together. I don't know what I like. I know I don't feel good in what I'm wearing, but I'm not exactly sure what would make me feel any better. And so I just wear this. And that's how that course came to be. One of the things that you have overtly, loudly asked me for many times over the last few years is help with dressing your body type. And for a long time, I was like, I'm not gonna do that. There's a ton of body type information out there. Like, there's a lot of good stuff out there, so why would I do that? And finally, I realized I did have something different to offer in the body type world, because as we have talked about many times, I love rules. I love them. Love to learn them. I love to memorize them. I love to recite them. But they also chafe me and make me feel rebellious. You are not the boss of me, and you can't tell me what to do. And that was something that I really struggled with when as I studied and learned how to dress for my body type. Well, there are things I'm not supposed to wear. I shouldn't wear, but I really like wearing them. So what do I do about that? And things that I should wear, I don't want to. I don't want to wear a blazer. I don't like blazers. Are they really great for my body type? Sure, yeah. They do all the things that you want. They balance my shape. I don't want to wear one. And I love belts. I shouldn't wear belts, but I love belts. I want to wear a belt. So how do I wear a belt and still, balance my body? Or white jeans. I'm not giving up white jeans. They're like at the top of the list of pair no-nos. And if you'll notice, I haven't given those up either. And so I've come up with tips and tricks to flatter my body type. I use those rules and think of them as tools, and also how to wear what I love, even when it doesn't fit in with those rules. And so my new course is called, I'm having a brain fart. It's called Style Your Silhouette. There we go. I don't think I've ever said it out loud. It's called Style Your Silhouette, because we are learning to marry the two, dressing to balance your shape and proportions, but still wear what you love. And it's, how to dress for your body type and still wear what you love. And the course is coming soon. Right now, I have a waitlist page for you that you can join. And as soon as it's released, you'll be the first to know. I have been hard at work on it. I've been working on it for a year. And I'm really excited about it because so many of you have been asking me for it, and I have something that'll help. So there's a link there. It's Stunning Style, Love My Body, because we do. Or stunningstyle.com/love my body, because that is the focus. This is all about positivity. There's nothing, we're not shaming any body types or any features. We're not talking badly about ourselves. We are loving our bodies and highlighting all of our best assets. And, you know, everything is about using what you got. Like, do I have supermodel hair? No, I don't. If you've been around, you know my hair struggles. It fell out in handfuls a year ago. Handfuls, half my hair fell out. And I've never had super luscious locks. I just stare at women with mermaid hair, like I always have. But I can do things that make my hair look fuller and healthier than it actually is. I use products, I use a hair dryer. And, you know, if I just let my hair air dry, it wouldn't look like this. I can tell you. So it's maximizing the best of what you have. And we do it with every part of our appearance, right? It's not about being someone else. It's about making the most of your best features. And that's another way that I feel like my course is different. We're not hiding anything or shaming anything. We are loving our bodies. And so stunningstyle.com/love my body will take you to the waiting list page. And I'm really excited about it. I hope you're excited about it as well, because it's what you've asked me for. And I love helping you. So let's take a look at some of the questions and comments. Lynn, hi Lynn, thanks for putting your name so I knew who it was. Hi April, love the delicate necklace with the V-neck. Well, thank you. So do I. This pendant was a gift from my husband many years ago, and I love wearing it. And a V-neck is a perfect time to showcase it. Kathy says, it's a wonderful challenge. I love hearing others appreciating themselves. I agree. Kathy's talking about the I Love My Body challenge that we have going on in the Capsule Wardrobes for Classic Style Facebook group. And I hope more of you, even if you're not posting it in the group, I hope you're writing it down every day. A love note to yourself, an appreciation and a gratitude for your body, and something about it. In fact, my hair is something I added to my I Love My Body list. It's maybe the thing I've hated the most, especially since the first time it fell out 7 years ago. Like, fell out. You could see my scalp from every angle, fell out. And so I've cried buckets over it more than once. And I added it to my list, appreciating it for all that it is and does, and loving it. So I hope more of you will do the same. And you can also, you know, love and appreciate your best things too, but loving every part of your body. That's kind of the point. Kathy says it's a fun way to check all the ways to recall body types. Yeah, I had fun with it. I hope you enjoyed it. The glassware is my favorite, but it's too much of a mental workout for me to be like, okay, and you are a, did I say wine goblet? Yes, wine goblet. I think all of us have heard those fruit terms, and it was just easiest for everyone to, you know, I could have come up with my own unique names for my course, but then we'd all be like, okay, I'm a Pilsner, you know, no need to reinvent the wheel. But if you don't want to be a fruit, you don't have to be. Kathy says balance is important in our lives too. It is. It absolutely is. And balance has been my word of the year for many years, something I struggle with. Emily says, good boat analogy. Thank you. It really helped me. Like, we don't give ourselves grace, and we Part of it is we've been lied to, and well, I talked about it a ton over the last year about how the fashion industry's #1 job is to make money. And how do they make money? By making you feel bad about yourself and offering to sell you the solution. We get lied to all the time. And so you wouldn't do that to your boat. Don't do it to your body. Rachel says, very true that it becomes more obvious with weight gain. I had gained about 30 pounds after getting married. I'm pear-shaped and I could still wear my same shirts, but I had to buy all new pants. I inherited my mom and grandma's shape. Once I lost the weight, it became less obvious. Yeah, and it's true. Well, and we do inherit shapes, right, from our family, but it does become more pronounced and easier to identify when you are fuller figured, you know. And I just want to make clear that your body is beautiful at every size as well. Your shape, your size, it's perfect, just as you are. I hated having to bring in the slender part of it, but in identifying your body type, that can really mess you up because the features can be harder to see in some of them, especially when you are more slender. And so I don't like bringing that in and making it sound like one is better than the other. But it does affect figuring it out sometimes. Sarah says, I am definitely a pear-shaped. One thing I try to remember is that medically, it is preferable to carry my weight where my organs are not. I wish I had nicer legs, but I'm coming to love what I have. I call myself an hourglass with more sand on the bottom. Sure. Yeah, you're an hourglass with more sand on the bottom. Maddie says, I was always told I was a triangle, but I'm sounding very apple. So Maddie, you are the very definition of gorgeous gowns. If you've never seen Maddie's legs, well, prepare to whistle because she's got fabulous legs. She does. And I know this because she shares her outfits in the Stunning Style Society. And I think in the Council Orders for Classic Style group and on my page, she's shared. So a lot of us have seen Maddie's fabulous legs. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Very shapely, very legs. Yeah, Maddie, I happen to think you're probably an apple as well, but you'd have to take measurements and stuff to find out. Shannon says, I hated being a straight body type growing up, but now in my later 30s and post babies, I don't mind it as much. Love learning about the different types. I think we've all hated our body type, every one of us. So growing, I hit puberty like in my 20s. I was rail thin in high school and middle school. I was very petite as well. And I hated it. And my friend was very curvy and I wanted to look like her. And she hated her curves. She wanted to look like me. And isn't that ridiculous that we both hated what we had and we were both wanting what the other had when both of our bodies were perfect? They were. And, you know, anyway, I think every woman has hated her body type, largely because we've been lied to about and presented with these ideals that are largely unattainable without Photoshop, and because not all clothes are made for all shapes. And so we see someone who can wear something that doesn't work on us, and we think there's something wrong with our body, and there's not. So I am so glad that you're loving your body now, Shannon. Marion says, I'm a very round apple. Well, Marion, you're also very sweet. So apples are some of my very favorite fruit, and I'm glad. And she says with large breasts. So, Marion, you're beautiful and perfect just the way you are. And I hope you know that. Like, yeah. It would be socially unacceptable for me to laud your fabulous assets. Like I talked about Maddie's legs. It'd be a little more awkward if I went all hard eyes on that. So but you know what I'm saying. Kathy says it's interesting. Mirka says, I think I finally know which body type I have. I'm a straight. I've always found it hard to tell, but now thanks to your great explanations, April, I think I've got it now. Well, good, Mirka. I don't actually, I haven't looked at you and thought, oh yeah, I know what Mirka's body type is. So I can't offer an opinion right now, but we're actually going to talk about this next week, how to identify your body type. A Facebook user says, I can't decide whether I'm an apple or a straight. My bust and hip measurements are almost identical like a straight, but I have a fuller midsection and my shoulders are wider than my hips like an apple, and I definitely don't have an athletic look. How do I decide between the two? We're going to talk about that next week. So join me then. 1 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday. What was the last body type you covered? Hourglass, or curvy, or peanut, or X, or figure 8, whatever you want to call it. My timing might be off. The very last body type I covered was the hourglass. When you typed that, I may not have been. Marion says carrot. So listen to Marion. She responded right when you asked. I was talking about carrot. Sorry. I almost led you astray. A Facebook user says, interestingly enough, I used to be a pear, but as I get older, I am now more an hourglass. My weight has shifted a bit. And it can happen. We're all so different and unique, right? So next week we'll talk about it, and we can all try and figure it out for ourselves for sure. Nanette says, now I'm torn. I've always thought of myself as a pear, but maybe I am an hourglass. I'm busty. Well, you can be a busty pear, like Oprah. Oprah is a busty pear. Who else was I looking at that was a really busty pear? But also, so I love Oprah. Oprah is a pear. She's a busty pear. But as she's gotten older and when she really gains weight, like at her top weight, she also puts on weight in her midsection like an apple. And her waist kind of disappears. And so I've seen her referred to as an apple online, as an hourglass, and as a pear. But if you look at her, no matter what is going on, her shoulders are proportionally smaller than her hips. But she has some of these other attributes of other body types because her body has changed. She's gotten older, and you know, when her weight goes up and down. A Facebook user says, Queen Latifah being a straight. I'm going to guess that's the one that rocked your world. I know, it surprised me too, but she is. And that dress that she had on is doing all the right things to make her look curvier than she is. But she's got kind of a flat backside too. And as she gains weight, she gains it evenly across her body. Janet says, Daisy Duke is an apple. Wow. I know. And do you know, I realized it. I'd never thought about it. But when which one was it? It was last week, right? When I was talking about how growing up, when I was so small, but I grew up seeing curvy Daisy Duke and curvy Linda Carter, and I thought I would look like that when I hit puberty, and was so disappointed when I didn't. I was looking for pictures of Catherine Bach to show you, and I found pictures of her when she was older, when she had gained weight, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's a pear. She's an apple. And then I went back and I looked more closely at these pictures of her in the show, and I was like, she is. Oh, she is. Yeah. So it surprised me too. Sarah says, surprise. It bumped up on me. Surprised that the shoulder, not bust measurement, defines the top part of your shape. Well, we'll talk a lot more about it next week. Yeah. Maddie says, I'm so excited about this new offering. Well, thank you, Maddie. I appreciate that. I'm excited about it too. I've been working so hard on it, and I'm really excited. It's been hard to keep a lid on it. Lynn says, I'm surprised that these shapes take into account the legs. I just thought that it was from shoulders to hips. I'm surprised that Serena is a carrot. She's so muscular, so hard for me to tell. I'm an apple, but for more reasons than I thought. Legs, bottom, thanks for elaborating on these. Well, so the primary definitions have to do with your proportions, right? But these other characteristics that are common, and like I said in the beginning, not always there, but they can be the features that help you figure it out. I guess you could be an apple that doesn't have gorgeous gams. I've yet to meet one. It could happen. And so it's more like those clues that you're like, oh, am I this or am I that? And then when you take these other clues into consideration, you can be like, okay, you're tipping the scales and I'm pretty sure I'm this. Kind of like Maddie with her always thinking she was a triangle when really she's probably an apple. So yeah, I mean, there's the main boxes to check, and then there's these other ones that you're like, okay, yeah, no, I get it. Because yeah. Maddie says, I will be the first in the door. Good, Maddie, I can't wait. We have so much fun together. Maddie is the life of the party. A Facebook user says, I have supermodel hair, but hate my apple shape. I even had a breast reduction and lipo on top of my hips to make my lower section stick out. You know what? I would love to have your hair. And your shape is perfect. You're beautiful. We need to retrain our brains to love all body types. They're all beautiful. They're all beautiful. And, with this course, I'll show you how to feature your best assets and maximize all your best qualities, just like I maximize the hair I've got, and you just wake up like that, right? And I'm with the hair dryer and the big fat round brush and the, all the product and the, you can maximize the best parts of your shape as well, and fall in love with your body again, because it's beautiful. And I'd love to come play with your hair. I had a friend in college, she had super long, thick hair, And one day we sat back to back and she flipped her hair. It was down to her butt. She flipped her hair over mine. And I was just like Morticia Adams, and just we sat in front of a mirror so that I could have mermaid hair for a minute too. It was fun. It got really hot. So anyway, Tammy says, hi, April. I'm new here, but really loving your course and groups. Thank you. Well, welcome, Tammy. I'm thrilled you're here. We love having you. So thanks for joining us. Debbie says, will the course feature only classic style clothing pieces? No, it's not about a style of clothing. This is not classic style specific. And by style, I mean like, we're talking about silhouettes and shapes, details, and how can I explain that without like, so I'm looking over here because I've got my my course outline on my wall in big things. So but I've also got it here smaller. So we're talking about like we're going through the, if you've taken my perfectly put together course, you know, we break it down into tops, bottoms, shoes, accessories, and layers. And in this course, we're doing the same, except we're adding dresses. And then we're going through and defining the different styles. And by styles, I mean silhouettes of, for example, let's talk about the tops. We're defining the types of tops that there are and the details of a top. The neckline, the sleeves, the fabrics, pockets, you know, all the details that make up these different styles of tops. And then we talk about what those styles of tops, those silhouettes of tops, and those details of those tops do for your body shape. And so it, and then within that, you know, and so one of the things I really struggled with as I studied how to dress for my body type is there are details that I just, or silhouettes or whatever that I just love to wear. And so what about that? I don't want to wear a blazer and I do want to wear white jeans. So work with me here, you know, or, you know, I love zipper details in my clothes. Well, I can wear all the zippers I want. And by choosing where they are, I can flatter my shape, or I can make the proportions more pronounced. And sometimes I just choose to wear what I love anyway, you know? So it's not about classic style clothing or cute or edgy or any of that. It's just we're defining all of it and what it does for your body. And then you decide how that applies to your particular style. And we talk about how to do it, you know, like I said, like belts. How I love to wear belts. So how can I wear belts and still flatter my body type? Well, I cover that. I know a lot of you apples ask about that too. It's in the course. Sarah says, same for me. I always thought I was an hourglass, but as I got older and gained weight, I think I'm definitely a pear. Well, so, you know, that's a really good example of when you're a very slender pear, some very slender pears can look like an hourglass, especially if you're on the busty side of a pear, right? You can also be an extremely slender pear and it can still be glaringly obvious. So that's what I mean. Like all of our bodies are different. And so when you're much on the slender end, maybe you do look like maybe you are an hourglass, but as you gain weight, the proportions change. So Regina says, as a young 20, I was 34, 18, 36. You had an 18-inch waist? Scarlett O'Hara had to, like, you know, cinch into a corset for that. As I age and weight changes, my proportions changed. And now after menopause, I'm 42, 38, 43, and 5'1". I can't wait for this course because I've listened carefully this morning, but still lots of questions regarding body type. Yeah, I mean, life changes our bodies, right? It just does. And that's okay because we've had the privilege of being alive this long, right? That sounds a little morbid, but it's true. You know, to stay forever young, the only way to do that is not an alternate that I want. So I'm happy to get older, and it shows. You know, that's fine. Becky says, I was an hourglass. Now I'm looking like more of an apple. Well, yeah, an hourglass can put on weight in her tummy, or maybe you were just a curvy apple when you were, and now that you're filling out, your apple is showing up more. I don't know. We'll talk about it next week, though. We'll figure it out. Facebook user says you have to keep moving for many reasons as we age. You talking about exercise? I think for sure it gets, yeah, yes, definitely. Shannon says, can an hourglass have a flatter bottom? I don't think so. That's part of the, like that, if you're a very slender apple and thinking you're an hourglass, if you've got a flatter bottom, you're not an hourglass. So let's look at, I wish more of these were side, or any of them were side shots, but I mean, Christina Hendricks, you can see she's got a full tush. And I wish we could turn them all so that we could see, but I don't think so. I am more than willing to admit to being wrong, but I've never seen an hourglass with a flat tush. Emily says, this was such an uplifting, encouraging video. Thanks, April. Emily, that thrills me because that is my goal. Always positive, uplifting, and encouraging because we all need it. Marion says, thank you. You're welcome, Marion. Sam says, I'm a pear, but quite slender and tall. My husband says, I'm a Bosch, not a Bartlett. Oh, I love all pears. Bosch, Bartlett, I'll take any of them. Although my very favorites are the Charles and David Riviera pears that are out this time of year. It's like candy if you've never had one. I really appreciate my curves at the bottoms, my still quite slender waist, and I love my shoulders and slender neck. Well, Sam, thank you for sharing that. You are gorgeous. Jennifer says, I have learned how to work with my body type and I no longer hate myself. Shopping is much easier and is fun. Good. That's exactly what we're doing. Work with your body. Get the right boat cover, right? Yeah. Jennifer, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. MPOTX. It sounds like a radio station. I love it. So I have been classified as an hourglass, but my shoulders are 3 inches larger than my hips. I have a small chest. Would you agree with that assessment? I always thought I was a pear, so shocker. I would say you're a pear. Maybe you just really dress in a way that balances your silhouette. But I mean, I haven't seen you and I'm just going off what you said, but if your shoulders are 3 inches, oh wait, no, your shoulders are 3 inches larger than your hips. Oh, you're not a pear. Sorry, I read that as smaller, or my brain said that as smaller. Mm-mm. Well, join me next week and we'll lay it out exactly how to figure it out. Sam says, I guess I'll have to look at it again. Maybe I'm a straight shoulder width. We'll do it next week. Join me then. Marion says, as we get older, things begin to sag in places that change our shape. Having babies also moves things around, especially when they weigh over 11 pounds. Oh my gosh, Marion, you had an 11-pound baby? My biggest babies were 6.5 pounds. I wanted a butterball baby so bad, like just one of those fat chubbers, and my biggest were 6.5 pounds. Never had one that had just like the really squishy thighs. But my word, that's not for sissies. An 11-pound baby. And you live to tell the tale, Marion. That's awesome. Lynette says, I love that you're covering this. You will have the best body type course, just since the way you like to break the rules too. Well, thank you, Lynette. I appreciate that. I do love to break the rules. Give me a rule. I'll find a way to break it. After I memorize it, then I'll break it. Janet says, I appreciate that your courses keep everything easy to understand. Some that are offered through other sources can be so overly complicated. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, in Perfectly Put Together, we start at the very beginning to make sure everybody's on the same page, that we all have the same foundation, right? And we're going to do that in this course as well. And so we'll start at the very beginning, make sure we all understand. And when you're deep into a topic, it's really easy to forget that not everyone knows what you know. And a great example of this is I got an email from one of you who asked for some more basic information. She's like, I love listening to you, but you were talking about different necklines that I didn't know what that meant, or I didn't know what ponte knit was. And so I had to go look those up. And, you know, I talk about and think about these things so often that I just assume, you know, I forget that not everyone knows the same vocabulary. And like a math teacher, you know, it's so natural to them. Obviously, they understand it. And when they are explaining it to someone else, they don't always remember that sometimes you need to start with addition and subtraction before you get to calculus, right? So I try to keep that in mind, but, you know, not to fault other creators. They're putting their heart and soul into their products as well, and it's easy to give you too much and to feed you with a fire hose, right? It's tempting too, because I want to give you the most value, and I want to give you everything, and that can be really overwhelming. And so it's an easy trap to fall into, but I hope you know that it's always meant with the intention of giving you great value and sharing everything that they have, that. In fact, I do it with my style snacks. I do too much. Anyway. So I hope that you know that their intention is to give you the best of what they've got, and it's easy to get too excited and give too much. A Facebook user says, will an apple always have a shapely bust line? I'm vacillating between apple and straight, but I don't have much up top. No. You can be an apple and not have a super busty bust line. And so that's kind of where some of these other details come into play. But we'll talk about it next week, and we'll really dial in. Like today, we're just kind of giving a vague overview, and next week we'll talk more about how to specifically decide what your body type is. Lori says, bone length determines where your body puts on muscle and fat. That is why body types hold up all lifelong and works for all body parts. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so much that goes into it. Someone says, so true, thank you. Good, but I don't know what I said, but you're welcome. Mirka says, oh, the hair issues sound very familiar. I've always had thin hair and occasionally hair loss. I've also learned to style it so it doesn't look as thin as it is. Yeah, so I mean, every single one of us has our fabulous features, and the others that we work to maximize, right? And like, do you know how much my teeth cost? A bloody fortune. When I turned 16, my mom said, if you're wondering where your car is, you should check the orthodontist's driveway. Maybe he'll let you borrow it one weekend. My teeth were a train wreck. Like, brace. I had so much dental work done to straighten my teeth. Years of pain. So I maximized what was available to me. We live in a day of orthodontia to straighten my teeth, to get a nice smile, right? And I, like I said, with the hair, I do all the things. I wear makeup. I color my hair. I just got my roots done yesterday. They look really good. I darken my eyebrows. Like, we all do things to maximize what we have, but I don't change my face with makeup. I just highlight what I've already got. I don't change the shape of my eyebrows. I just darken them so you can actually see them. Same with my eyelashes, same with my lips. I'm not changing the shape of my lips, but I wear lipstick so you can see them, because otherwise they're the same color as my face and they just disappear. My whole face disappears unless I darken something, because it's all blonde and pale. So it's the same thing with your body type. Highlight your best features and work with your body. Regina says, I have to pass on this compliment. I've been seeing a counselor regarding medical issues, and when I told her about your Facebook groups, she was so incredibly impressed that we are a group of women that is so positive and accepting. Kudos to your guidance. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, you all are part of that, right? You create this positive space, and I just appreciate that so much about all of you, that you help me keep this space positive, encouraging, and uplifting, because it is rare. It's very special, and I love this community for that. A Facebook user says, your new course sounds amazing. I can't wait. Well, thank you. I hope you love it. Regina says, yikes, just heard you say I had an 18-inch waist. No, typo, try 28. Oh my gosh. Okay. 28, yeah. Because 18, wow. Wow. 28 is still wow. But 18 is like, yeah, wow. Or like corset and ribs removed, maybe. Thank you for updating us, Regina. Marion says, oh, she's talking about her baby, the 11-pound baby. She looks like a sumo wrestler. She was overcooked. It was winter and she didn't want to come out. Well, would you come out in Canada in the winter? I wouldn't. I don't blame her. NPOTX says, I had a 10-pounder and she looked like a 2-month-old in the nursery compared to the other newborns. Holy cow. Wow. I bet. I don't think mine weighed 10 pounds when they were 2 months old. Just my babies were all tiny. But one of those, well, my smallest one, he was 3 pounds when he was born. I mean, my oldest were triplets and they were born at 31 weeks, right? He's like 5'10" now. So he's doing okay, but he was just a little sack of bones when he was born. I cannot even imagine. I mean, but even my full-term babies, I don't think they weighed 10 pounds at 2 months. I just had small babies, but they have grown into adult-looking little man children. So, okay, this is not supposed to be this long, but this is my favorite part. I love chatting with you and our conversation after. I know to keep it shorter, I should not read all the comments and whatever, but this is the part I like the best. So I get through the other part so that we can talk after. And I just love that you joined me. And for those of you that have stayed this long, thank you. I love it. We have so much fun here. You can join the waiting list for my new course by going to stunningstyle.com/love my body. Oh, Debbie says, I had a 10-pound, 14.5-ounce baby. He was my last. Well, I can see why, Debbie. I cannot even imagine. And I had a C-section every time, so I really can't imagine. But from what I hear, that was not easy what y'all did. So bless all of you. Next week, we are going to really deep dive into how to determine your body type. And the very first thing that we do in the course is determine your body type. So, but we'll talk about it again. We'll talk about it next week too. But anybody who joins the course does not have to come in knowing their body type. We will figure it out very first thing. So join me again next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, same bat time, same bat channel. And I want to say, and this is NPOTX signing off, because it sounds like a radio station. I love it, but it's not. And this is April at Stunning Styles signing off. Thanks for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you next Wednesday.